The Egyptian desert. An endless sea of sand that has guarded its secrets for millennia. Its greatest mystery? An entire army that marched into this wasteland and vanished from history. Our story begins in the 6th century BC with the Persian Empire, the largest the world had ever seen. A superpower forged by the legendary Cyrus the Great, it was an unstoppable force. After Cyrus's death, his son Cambyses II took the throne. He was ambitious, ruthless, and eager to surpass his father's legacy. He set his sights on the one prize that remained, Egypt. In 525 BC, Cambyses invaded. Using cunning psychological tactics, he defeated the Egyptian army at the Battle of Pelusium and conquered the ancient kingdom of the Nile. Cambyses declared himself the new pharaoh. But conquering Egypt was not enough. He wanted to crush all resistance, real or imagined, and his ambition would lead to disaster. From his new capital, Cambyses planned a massive three-pronged assault to secure his African empire. 2 armies were sent to attack other targets. The third was given a secret, fateful mission. This third army, 50,000 strong, was ordered west into the desert. Their target, the remote but powerful oracle of Amun at the Siwa oasis, a center of religious authority. Why attack a holy site? The priests at Siwa had declared Cambyses an illegitimate ruler. For the proud Persian king, this insult could only be answered with destruction. An elite force of 50,000 of the empire's best soldiers was assembled. They were well armed, well supplied, and completely unaware of the fate that awaited them. Led by local guides, the army marched from Thebes into the vast, empty desert. They were headed for the Haja oasis, their last known stop before disappearing forever. The army reached the Haja oasis after a 7-day march. They rested, replenished their water, and then continued their journey west towards Siwa. They were never seen again. The historian Herodotus tells us what happened next. A great and terrible sandstorm, a simoon, rose from the south. A colossal wall of sand rolled across the desert. The story is chilling. 50,000 men, caught in the open with nowhere to run, were simply engulfed by the storm. An entire army, suffocated and buried alive in a single afternoon. Cambyses waited for news of his army's victory. But no messengers ever returned. There was only silence from the desert. His army was gone. For over 2,500 years, this has been the accepted story. A terrible act of nature. But as modern historians look closer, they have started to ask questions. Is this the real story? For centuries, explorers and archaeologists have combed the desert for any sign of the lost army. A shield, a sword, even a single bow. But they have found nothing. Our only source, Herodotus, was a Greek writing about his Persian enemies. His information came from Egyptians who hated Cambyses. Could his story be biased? Was the Sandstorm story a piece of propaganda? A tale invented by the Egyptians to show the Persian king as an arrogant fool punished by the gods for his impiety? Archaeologists are skeptical. How can a sandstorm completely bury 50,000 men and all their equipment so perfectly that not a single trace has ever been found? The total lack of evidence is the biggest problem. Not one Persian arrow, not one piece of armor from that period, has ever been found on the army's supposed route. This has led to a new, explosive theory. What if the army wasn't lost to a storm at all? What if they were deliberately destroyed by human hands? We know that at this exact time, an Egyptian noble named Pertubestes III declared himself the true pharaoh and led a rebellion against Persian rule. With Cambyses' main force away and 50,000 of his best troops isolated in the desert, it was the perfect time for the Egyptian rebels to strike a devastating blow. The theory suggests the rebels laid a trap. They could have poisoned the wells at the next oasis or launched a surprise attack when the army was exhausted and low on water. Caught in the harsh desert, the Persian army would be vulnerable. A determined Egyptian force, fighting on their home ground, could have wiped them out. If this happened, the Sandstorm story is the perfect cover-up. The rebels could blame the gods and the desert for the army's disappearance, hiding their own victory. This theory transforms the narrative from a natural disaster into a tale of heroic Egyptian resistance. It's a version of events the Egyptians would surely have preferred. The loss of 50,000 elite troops was a catastrophe for Cambyses. His campaigns failed, and he died under mysterious circumstances on his way back to Persia. His death allowed Darius the Great to seize the throne. Crucially, Darius's own records confirm he had to crush a major rebellion in Egypt led by Pertubestes III. The search continues. Some archaeologists have claimed to find remains, but their findings are hotly disputed. The desert still holds its secrets close. Today, Siwa is a peaceful oasis. The ruins of the Temple of Amun still stand, a silent witness to the ancient drama that unfolded here. But the power of the desert is real. Sudden, violent sandstorms are a deadly threat. The official story, while convenient, cannot be completely dismissed. Perhaps the truth lies in the middle. Could the army have been ambushed by rebels, weakened, and then finished off by a terrible sandstorm? Imagine the soldiers themselves. Far from home, marching into a hostile and alien landscape, trusting their king's plan would lead them to victory, not oblivion. Their final days must have been filled with dread. The relentless sun, the dwindling water, and then the terrifying roar of a storm or the sudden glint of enemy swords. It remains one of history's greatest cold cases. 50,000 men, erased from the world, leaving behind only a story and a 2,000-year-old mystery. The story endures because it speaks to a primal fear, of being lost, of being overwhelmed by forces beyond our control, of simply disappearing from the world. Cambyses is remembered as a mad tyrant who led his men to ruin. But is that reputation fair, or is it propaganda written by his enemies and successors? His story is the ultimate example of the phrase history is written by the victors. The version we have is the one his enemies wanted us to hear. We have no Persian account of what happened. The official records from Cambyses' reign are gone, likely destroyed. We only have the story from the other side. To the Greeks, it was a morality tale about a king's arrogance being punished by the gods. A story of hubris meeting nemesis. To the Egyptians, it was a story of patriotic heroes defending their homeland from a foreign invader. A secret victory hidden behind a story of a storm. For archaeologists, it's a giant puzzle. Finding the remains of a 2,500-year-old army in the vast western desert is a near impossible task. But new technology offers hope. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar might one day spot an anomaly beneath the sands and finally reveal the army's resting place. What would they find? A field of skeletons perfectly preserved by the dry sand? Heaps of armor and weapons, telling the true story of their final moments? A discovery would rewrite history. It could finally confirm whether they were victims of an ambush, a storm, or both. The mystery would be solved. But maybe the story's power is in its mystery. The tale of the lost army is more compelling because we don't know the answer. It forces us to imagine. It remains an enduring riddle, a historical ghost story. A chilling warning about the fragility of power and the unforgiving nature of the desert. Whether victims of a storm or an ambush, the 50,000 soldiers of Cambyses' army have found a strange immortality. They are remembered not for any battle, but for their silence. Their fate is a stark reminder that sometimes, the greatest stories in history are the ones for which we have no final chapter.